The forgotten planet. The sky was burning when Daniel's ship fell from orbit. A blinding flash, a loud boom, then silence. He woke up in the wreckage bleeding, dizzy, and alone. His suit was torn. His comms were dead, and oxygen was low. The planet was supposed to be empty, a dead world. Sealed off after a war no one wanted to remember. Daniel cursed under his breath. This wasn't a rescue mission. It was a supply run routine. Boring and safe. At least it was supposed to be. Now he was trapped, injured, and running out of time. He limped through the wreckage, dragging one leg behind. Smoke filled the air, but something worse hung in it to rot. The stench of a place left to die. Buildings half buried in dust. Machines rusted and broken. Signs written in a language no one spoke anymore. This place wasn't just abandoned, it was forgotten. He found shelter inside a collapsed building. There was no power, no light, just shadows. He sat, took out a ration bar, and chewed slowly, 1 bar left, maybe 2. He would need to survive at least 3 days before anyone could even track his last signal. Then, he heard it. A soft sound. Like something crawling. Daniel froze. He reached for his pocket knife, the only weapon he had left, from the corner of the room. A figure appeared, thin, shaking, covered in dirt and ragged cloth. She looked like a ghost, but her eyes were wide, alert, and full of pain. An alien, a female at least, Daniel thought so. Her skin was pale blue under layers of dust. Her body weak, bones almost showing through. She said nothing, just stared at the food in his hand. Daniel hesitated. Was she dangerous? He didn't know, but she looked like she hadn't eaten in weeks, maybe months. He broke the bar in half and held one piece out. She didn't move at first. Then slowly, carefully, she crawled forward, took the food, and backed away. She ate like she didn't trust it, bit by bit, as if it might vanish. Daniel watched, silent. What was she doing here? This planet had been sealed after a bio-war 50 years ago. No life was supposed to survive. She finally looked at him. Not with fear, but with something else. A quiet, tired kind of thank you. Daniel nodded. No words were needed. 2 lost souls in a dead place. Maybe tomorrow he'd ask questions. Maybe tomorrow she'd answer. That night, he made a fire from broken panels and wires. She sat across from him, still not speaking. But her eyes stayed on him. Studying, measuring, remembering. He gave her his blanket. She took it without a word, and for a while, they just listened to the wind outside. The stars above the planet didn't move. Time felt stuck here, like the world was holding its breath. Just as Daniel started to close his eyes, a low growl echoed in the distance. Not wind, not machinery, something alive. He stood up fast, knife in hand. The alien woman was already on her feet. She looked at him, then toward the door. Fear, real fear, flashed in her eyes. Then she whispered her first words. A voice cracked and broken, but sharp. They come at night. Daniel stepped toward the door, heart pounding. Who comes? He asked. She didn't answer, but she pointed toward the darkness. Something moved out there. Too fast, too big, and too quiet. Daniel tightened his grip on the knife. The fire flickered. The shadows moved. Whatever was out there, it was getting closer. And Daniel had the sinking feeling that sharing his food had just made him part of something much bigger, much more dangerous. He turned to the alien woman, but she was already gone, disappeared into the dark. Only her voice remained. You should not have come. Asterisk. The rain came without warning. Black, thick, and warm like oil falling from the sky. Daniel stood under a piece of broken metal, watching it hiss as it hit the ground. The alien woman, Arella, didn't flinch. She just stood in the open, face turned upward, letting the dark rain wash the dust from her skin. For the first time, Daniel saw her clearly. Beneath the filth and scars, she wasn't just another alien. She had elegance in her movements, a quiet strength that didn't match her starving frame. This place hadn't killed her. It had tried and failed. Daniel stepped forward. Is it safe? He asked, pointing to the black rain. Arella nodded slowly. It burns what is weak, she said. Then looked him in the eye. But you are still standing. She didn't smile, but something in her voice had softened. Daniel followed her into a shattered tower. Inside, the walls were covered in markings, carved by hand, symbols, names, numbers, and faces, thousands of faces, scratched into stone. Your family? Daniel asked. No, Arella said. My people. She walked slowly to one face, her hand touching the rough edges. This was my mate. She paused. He died protecting me. When the skies burned and the ground turned to poison, Daniel looked around. This was a city? A home, she replied. Now a grave. He didn't know what to say. What do you say to someone who lost everything yet lived? Arella sat near a broken console, her hands moving over buttons that no longer worked. This place was once a gate, she said. A door to stars, to trade, to peace. Her voice grew bitter. Then came the war, the betrayal, the sickness. Daniel sat across from her. You survived, he said. Arella looked away. I hid. Then she looked back at him. I ran. I watched him die so I could crawl into a tunnel and rot in silence. The words hit Daniel hard. She wasn't just a survivor. She was someone who had been buried alive by grief. I would have done the same, he said. No, she replied. You gave your food to a stranger. You still believe in something. That makes you dangerous here. Daniel didn't understand what she meant. But before he could ask, she stood. Come. There's something you need to see. She led him deep underground, through tunnels carved into the stone. At the end, behind a locked steel door, was a chamber glowing faint blue. Symbols floated in the air alive. Like light trapped in water, Daniel stepped inside, feeling the air buzz around him. What is this? He asked. My husband's work, Arella said. He was not a soldier, he was a keeper. He built this room to save what little hope we had left. Daniel walked to the center, where a metal cylinder hovered above the ground. What's in it? Arella's face hardened. Memory, code, seeds of a future that never came. She stepped between him and the device. But it is not for you. Daniel raised his hands. I'm not here to steal anything. I know, she said. But others will come. If they find this, they will not show mercy. They will not share. Daniel looked at her. You've been here for 50 years waiting? No, she said quietly. I stopped waiting long ago. I was just surviving until you fell from the sky. Silence hung in the air, heavy and strange. Daniel wasn't sure what to feel: pity, respect, confusion. All he knew was that nothing about this place was simple. As they turned to leave the chamber, a soft hum echoed from the walls. Arella froze. Daniel looked around. What is that? The seal is broken, she whispered. They know. Who? Daniel asked. Arella turned to him, her voice sharp now. The ones who destroyed us. They left no survivors, no witnesses. If they know you're here, they'll come to finish the job. Before Daniel could answer, his wrist device blinked a signal. Faint but real. Someone's in orbit, he said. Arella's S went pale. Then we are out of time. Daniel reached for his gear, heart racing. What do we do? She looked at him with eyes full of ancient sorrow and whispered, Pray they don't remember how to land. The walls were bleeding. Dark liquid dripped from cracks in the stone, hissing as it hit the floor. It wasn't blood. Not exactly, but something close. Alive, angry, and spreading. Daniel stared at it, frozen. He had never seen anything like this. The room they had just left, the chamber of memory, was sealed again. But the damage was done. Something had awakened. Arella pulled him back. We have to move, she said, her voice low and fast. They're coming through the ground. Who? Daniel asked, but she didn't answer. She only ran, and he followed. They climbed back through the tunnel. The walls groaned around them like the planet itself was waking up after a long, violent dream. Above them, the surface was darker than before. The sky was now a thick red haze, pulsing like a dying heartbeat. Daniel checked his wrist screen. No signal. The ship in orbit was gone or hiding, and whatever message he had sent was lost. What did you mean when you said they're coming through the ground? Daniel asked. Arella stopped, turned, and looked him dead in the eye. They were made to kill, she said. Not to think, not to feel. Just kill. Mutated machines, twisted flesh, crawling through tunnels beneath the surface. Leftovers from the war, forgotten by those who started it, but still obeying the last command. Erase everything. They heard it then. A soft click, then a rumble, then silence. Move, Aurelia said. No more warnings. No more answers, just instinct. They ran through a dead city, past fallen towers and skeletons wrapped in vines. The ground cracked under their feet. Then came the sound, sharp, fast, and wrong. Metal scraping bone, teeth on stone, breathing with no lungs. Daniel looked back and saw them, crawling like insects. Some with too many legs, others with none, dragging themselves with steel claws. Eyes glowing red in skulls that weren't built to blink. He turned and fired useless. His blaster sparked and died. Too old, too broken, and too human. Aurelia grabbed his arm and pulled him into a building. She slammed her palm against a panel and the wall closed behind them. Daniel gasped for air. What are those things? War scavengers, she said. Built from dead soldiers and broken tech. They feed on memory. They track emotion. Daniel swallowed hard. So the more scared we are, the faster they find us, she finished. Silence again, then a thump soft, then louder, coming from the other side of the wall. Aurelia leaned against the stone, eyes closed. She whispered something in her own language, calm, rhythmic, almost like a prayer. Daniel copied her breathing, slower, deeper. The pounding at the wall faded. Minutes passed, they didn't speak. Even thoughts felt dangerous. Finally, Aurelia opened her eyes. They've moved on, she said. For now, Daniel stood, muscles aching. We can't keep hiding forever. No, she agreed. We run, we survive, and when the time is right, we fight. Daniel almost laughed. With what? I've got a broken knife and a burned-out blaster. Aurelia walked to a small panel in the corner of the room. She tapped it once. A drawer opened. Inside, a long black weapon with symbols that shimmered in the dark. My husband's last gift, she said. It listens to thoughts. It fires only when the soul is ready. Daniel reached for it. The metal was warm like skin. It vibrated softly in his hands. You sure this thing won't kill me? He asked. Aurelia tilted her head. If it doesn't like you, it will simply disappear. Daniel nodded. Fair enough. He strapped the weapon to his back and looked at her. We make a good team, he said. Half smiling, Aurelia didn't smile back. But her eyes said enough. We're not a team, she said. We're the last chance this world has. A shadow passed over the room. They looked up. Something massive moved across the sky, blotting out what little light was left. Aurelia's voice dropped to a whisper. The mothership is here. Daniel's blood ran cold. They found us, he said. No, Aurelia replied. They never stopped watching. Asterisk, the weapon was humming in Daniel's hands, but he wasn't holding it. It had lifted into the air, spinning slowly, glowing brighter than before. He stepped back as symbols floated around him, like fireflies made of data. Aurelia's voice cut through the silence. Put it down. I didn't pick it up, Daniel whispered. The weapon pulsed, then dropped into his arms, heavy and quiet again. He looked at Aurelia. What just happened? She didn't answer right away. Instead, she walked to a control wall and pressed her hand against it. The floor shifted, revealing a spiral stairway going deep into the ground. What's down there? Daniel asked. She looked back at him. Proof. And a choice. They walked in silence. The air got colder, thicker. Every step felt like a memory, not his, someone else's. Flashes of war, of fire, of a sky split in two. At the bottom, a round room waited, filled with ancient machines still alive after all these years. In the center, a small glass orb hovering above a pedestal. This is what they wanted, Aurelia said. The code my mate created. A cure, a weapon, a map. Daniel stepped closer. What does it do? She hesitated. It learns. It remembers everything. Thoughts, history, feelings stored like stars in a bottle. Daniel stared into the orb. He saw flashes, humans, aliens, machines, stories spinning inside it like ghosts. Aurelia placed a hand on the orb. It glowed blue, then white. then red. "They broke it," she said, her voice shaking. "They came. They copied part of the code and ran. But they didn't understand it. So it twisted, turned into something dark. A virus of thought." Daniel's mouth went dry. "Wait, you mean the enemy ship that's here?" "They carry the broken version," Aurelia said. "And it's alive, feeding on fear, learning from war." Daniel backed away. "So why keep this version?" "Because it still holds the truth," she said. "And truth can kill lies." Just then, the entire room shook, sparks rained from the ceiling. A deep voice echoed through the walls, machine-like and angry. "Unauthorized activation detected." Daniel looked at Aurelia. "They found us." "No," she said, her eyes wide. "They're inside." From the tunnel above, metal limbs crashed through the walls. Crawling things, half machine, half bone. Screaming in static, Aurelia pulled Daniel behind a console. "They want the orb." Daniel aimed the strange weapon. It responded instantly. Glowing, humming, waiting, he focused on one of the crawlers. The weapon fired silent, clean, deadly. The creature exploded in sparks and ash. More came. Daniel fired again and again, each shot faster than thought, guided by fear and need. But there were too many. One of them reached the pedestal. Its claws sliced through the orb, just a scratch. But enough. The glow flickered, and a high-pitched sound filled the room. Aurelia screamed. Daniel grabbed her, pulling her away from the blast of light. The orb was cracking, spilling light like blood. Then everything stopped. Silence. Daniel opened his eyes. They were no longer in the room. They were somewhere else. A sky of code above them, a ground made of memory. He saw Earth, Aurelia's planet, stars folding into each other. "We are inside the code," Aurelia said, her voice distant. "And it's rewriting." "What does that mean?" Daniel asked. "It means the truth is choosing a shape," she said. "And it has questions for you." Suddenly, a figure appeared, not human, not alien, just light and shadow. It spoke in every voice Daniel had ever heard, and in one he hadn't his own. "Will you carry the memory?" Daniel stood still. "What happens if I say yes?" "Then you are no longer only yourself," it said. "You are every death, every choice, every scream that built this future." "And if I say no?" "Then this world dies with silence." Daniel looked at Aurelia. She nodded once, then faded. So did everything else. He woke up gasping. The orb was gone, the room empty. Only the weapon remained burning with a new color. Aurelia stepped out of the shadows. "It chose you," she said. Daniel looked at his hands. "I remember everything." From above, a voice crackled through the dust. The enemy ship was landing, and it was calling his name. He once had a name before they erased it. Before the code burned his mind and rewrote his soul. Before he became Unit 01. The first and final weapon. He remembered holding his son. He remembered soft rain and music. Then came fire and orders and silence. Now he heard only one command echoing through his skull like a drumbeat. Destroy the carriers, erase the memory above the ruined planet. His ship cut through clouds like a blade. Inside, rows of empty soldiers waited. Not alive, not dead. Just echoes below. He saw the signal. It came from the old city. The forbidden sector. She was still alive. And she had passed the memory to *****him. **** the human. Unit 01 turned his face to the screen. "Prepare the purge," he said. His voice was still his. But his heart was long gone, on the surface. Daniel stood at the edge of the ruins. The air was sharp with static. His skin tingled. The weapon on his back whispered thoughts he didn't understand. He saw flashes, memories not his own, battles, betrayals, voices screaming in languages he didn't speak. Aurelia placed a hand on his shoulder. "The code has linked to you now," she said. "You carry all we were and all we lost." Daniel looked at the sky. The enemy ship was descending slowly, like a god returning to its temple. "What do they want now?" he asked. Aurelia's voice was cold. "They don't want anything. They only follow what's left of the code they stole. And the one leading them used to be one of us." Daniel turned to her. "You knew him?" I loved him, she said. And now I must help you kill him. The ground shook. Enemy units dropped from the sky like black stars, slamming into the dirt and rising from craters. They were quiet at first. Then came the screen metal grinding against metal. The sound of old pain and dead orders. Daniel gripped the alien weapon. It pulsed, waiting. His fingers moved before he could think. A shot fired silent and perfect. One unit dropped. Then two. They kept coming. Daniel and Arela fought back to back for everyone they destroyed. Two more arrived. This wasn't war. It was cleansing. We need higher ground, Daniel shouted. Arela pointed to a broken tower. The old watchpost. It was built to see the stars. Now we use it to see death. They ran through smoke and rubble. Dodging fire, climbed the tower floor by floor. At the top, the view was endless and terrifying. The enemy ship was preparing its main weapon. Daniel saw it, energy gathering under the hull. One blast would wipe the entire city. I need to get close, Daniel said. The weapon this thing I'm carrying, it's not just a gun. It's a key. Arela's eyes narrowed. They won't let you board. Then I'll make them, he said. He opened his wrist panel, repaired with alien tech. He sent a pulse. A fake distress signal in the enemy's own language. The response was immediate. A pod dropped from the mothership. It landed hard, spraying dust in all directions. The door opened, and from it stepped Unit 01. He wasn't what Daniel expected. He looked tired, his armor cracked, his body more machine than flesh. But his eyes were still watching, still human. Unit 01 looked at Daniel and spoke. You carry the code, Daniel nodded. And you carry the virus for a second. Nothing moved. Then Unit 01 removed his helmet. Underneath was a face aged by war, burned by radiation, but real. I did what I had to, he said. They took everything. I couldn't let the memory live. It's too dangerous. Daniel stepped forward. Memory isn't danger. Silence is. Unit 01 raised a hand commanding his soldiers to stop. Behind him, the mothership's cannon charged. One more minute, and the world would be dust. You want to end this? Daniel asked. Then take it from me. He threw the weapon at Unit 01's feet. It pulsed once, then floated between them. The weapon spoke not in voice, but in light, showing them both what could have been. A world where memory wasn't buried. A future rebuilt, not erased. Unit 01 stepped back. Eyes wide. He wasn't fighting a man. He was fighting truth. Behind them, the cannon locked onto the city. Time was up. Arela stepped forward. We choose now, she said. Not with fear, but with what's left of love. The weapon glowed bright, then fired straight into the sky. Asterisk ash fell like snow, silent, endless, and gray. It covered the ruins, the broken machines, and the bodies of things that could no longer bleed. Daniel stood in the middle of it all. His eyes were open but distant. He wasn't just seeing the present. He was carrying the weight of every memory the code had shown him. Arela knelt beside a fallen unit, her hands trembling. The weapon now alive with light floated above them. Its glow dimmer now, as if it too was tired, from the sky. The enemy ship loomed overhead. Its cannon had charged, fired and missed. The code had interfered, redirected the shot just in time. But that one act had drained them all. Now the silence before the final storm. Daniel turned to Arela. Is he still out there? She didn't answer, but from the smoke, a voice came. I never left. Unit 01 stepped into view. His armor cracked, sparks dancing across his chest. But his eyes, still human, were locked on the weapon. You've seen what it holds, he said to Daniel. All that pain, all those deaths, why protect it? Daniel didn't move. Because memory is the only thing that can stop this from happening again. Unit 01 shook his head. Memory is what causes this. They remember hate, they rebuild war. It's in your species and mine. Arela stood, her voice strong now. Then let this be the last war. The weapon rose higher. Sensing the choice ahead, it began to split two beams of light forming. One pointed at Unit 01, the other at Daniel. You must choose, Arela said. One carries the virus. One carries the cure. Unit 01 looked tired. For a second, his mask of rage cracked. "I didn't want to become this," he said. "I only wanted my people to survive." Daniel took a step forward. "Then help me. Let's end this together." But the ship above roared again. A final wave of units dropped from the sky, hundreds of them. The ground shook as they landed, crawling from the craters. Metal jaws open. Aurelia turned to Daniel. "This is it. If we fall, the code dies with us." Daniel nodded. He raised the weapon, no longer a tool, but part of him. The light from it scanned the sky, then fired arcs of energy cutting through the enemy swarm. The battle began. Daniel moved like lightning, the weapon guiding him. He didn't shoot, he thought. Every memory in the code flowed through him. Every soldier, every sacrifice, every mistake, he carried it all. Aurelia used her mind. Her psychic energy formed waves, pushing back the machines, cracking them open, but it was costing her. Blood ran from her nose, her knees buckled. Unit 01 stood still, watching. Then slowly he reached into his chest and pulled out a black shard. His core. He looked at Aurelia. "I don't want to fight you." "Then don't," she whispered. "End it with us." He looked up at the ship, at the swarm still coming, and for the first time, he hesitated. Daniel saw it. He saw the man behind the machine. "Help us," he said again. Not as a weapon, as a witness. Unit 01 held the black shard above his head. It pulsed. The swarm stopped. Then he crushed it in his fist. A blinding shockwave spread across the field. Every unit froze, then fell silent. The weapon in Daniel's hands dimmed. The war had stopped, but the price was still rising. Daniel turned. Aurelia was on her knees, breathing hard. Blood stained the ground beneath her. "No," he whispered. He ran to her, held her. Her eyes fluttered open. "The code is safe now," she said. "You kept your promise. Stay with me," he begged. "You don't have to go." She smiled small, tired. "I already did. A long time ago." Her body shimmered with light, not fading, transferring. The code left her and moved fully into Daniel. He screamed, not in pain but in grief, in memory, in connection. Above them, the enemy ship cracked open, its systems collapsing without Unit 01's link. The last echo of war died in the sky. Daniel stood alone now. The ashes still fell, but beneath them, new light began to grow. The world didn't cheer when the war ended. It sighed, long and low, like an old breath finally released. The silence was deeper than victory. It was survival. Daniel stood in the ruins of a city no one remembered, beneath a sky that had finally stopped bleeding. The weapon was gone. The code had settled into him, quiet now, but alive like a second heart. Ash still clung to his boots as he walked, each step heavy with memory not his own. Every child who cried, every friend who fell, every choice made under pressure and fear. He had become the archive, not a hero, not a savior, just a man carrying the truth in his hand. He held a small crystal, Aurelia's final gift, a single shard of her essence. He didn't know where to take it, so he carried it in silence. The enemy ship was a grave in the sky now, frozen, powerless. Unit 01's sacrifice had stopped the swarm, but Daniel could still hear the man's final words spoken, not aloud, but through the code. "Let them remember who we were, not what we became." Weeks passed. A rescue ship from Earth finally arrived. The pilot looked at Daniel like he was a ghost. And maybe he was. "You're the last survivor?" they asked. "No," Daniel replied. "There are too many voices in me to say that." He didn't tell them about the code, or Aurelia, or what it felt like to hold the future and the past in the same breath. Not yet. Back on Earth, they studied him, scanned his body, his mind, but the weapon was gone. The code refused to speak to anyone else. In time they gave up, labeled him stable, filed his report, closed the file, but Daniel didn't forget. He saw the signs, whispers in the stars, patterns in old signals. The code was still working, still rebuilding. Not a weapon, now a teacher. One day, he stood before the United Coalition, world leaders, scientists, generals. He was supposed to give a statement, a summary, a clean version of the chaos. Instead, He opened his palm and showed them the crystal. "She died protecting this," he said. "Not to win a war, but to stop another from being born." The room went silent. Some looked confused, others uncomfortable. Only a few understood. Daniel walked off the stage without waiting for applause. There was none, and he didn't need it. Years later, in a garden he built with his own hands, Daniel sat alone. The stars above him were the same cold, quiet, endless, but he was no longer afraid of them. From the soil grew strange flowers, blue, glowing, soft to the touch. He didn't plant them. The code did. Pieces of a rayless world returned through him. Children from the nearby colony came to see the lights. They called it the widow's garden, not knowing why, but somehow feeling it mattered. Daniel smiled. He spoke to the stars sometimes, and he believed somewhere, somehow she heard him. Then, one night, a new signal came. Faint, distant, alien, but not hostile. It carried a simple message. "We received your memory. We remember too." Daniel closed his eyes. The past was no longer a secret. The future was no longer a threat, and the story was no longer just his.